Tonight, two new men, Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore, are another step closer to becoming the next majority owners of both the Timberwolves and the Lynx.
This after a three-member arbitration panel ruled longtime owner Glenn Taylor could not cancel a sale to Rodriguez and Lore. We have live team coverage tonight of this ruling. Bab Santos spoke to fans and is standing by with their reaction. But first, we begin with ARod Hicks with a look at the big picture and what this means now for the teams.
You know, guys, this was a drawn-out process. It was a messy one. It was everything you hope not to see from people vying to take over the team or continue running it. But at last, we finally reached a conclusion, at least we think. After arbitration, the lawyers voted 2-1 in favor of Rodriguez and Lore, meaning they can now move forward with finalizing the deal to become controlling owners. But first, this has to be approved by the NBA Board of Governors. Of course, that duo is happy, but you could say the complete opposite for Taylor, who is set to lose the team that he purchased back in 1994 and helped keep them in Minnesota. I spoke with the Athletic's John Krasinski, who said he hadn't spoken with Taylor yet, but if he had to guess, Taylor is probably disappointed and crestfallen. I asked if he thinks Taylor would appeal the decision. Krasinski says you technically can't appeal. Instead, Taylor will have to take this ruling to federal court.
The threshold that you have to meet to get a ruling vacated by an arbitrator is very, very high. Basically, you have to prove that either one or more of the panelists was compromised or biased in some sort of way, or you have to prove that the panel overstepped its authority in issuing its ruling. And so that's a very difficult thing to do in the legal world.
All right, so it looks like if Taylor wants to appeal this somehow or keep fighting this, it's going to be an uphill battle for him. Now, for how the fans are feeling, we turn it over to our Bab Santos, who has their reaction.
Yeah, well, ARod, a busy night for this franchise because the Timberwolves were actually in action today, and that game was plastered on plenty of these televisions here at Tom's Watch Bar throughout the afternoon. They were on the road in Cleveland playing a tough Cavaliers team. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come out with a W, but they still had plenty of their fans here cheering them on from afar. And of course, this big news had plenty of people talking about that as well. And people tonight were just divided, some feeling excited, but others more so worried.
What are they going to do now? If they are now ultimately going to become the majority shareholder, what does that mean? Regardless of them like moving the team, let's just hold that at an aside. I think in a lot of times right now, I think how are we going to improve the team ultimately with all the second aprons of the salary cap or whatnot to people understand how are they going to get more help for Anthony Edwards and the team at hand.
Eventually you need new leadership to kind of push us to the next level, and I think that's what ARod and Marc are going to be bringing to the Timberwolves organization. So I'm thankful for the Taylor family and excited to be able to move forward with certainty into this kind of exciting age of Ant and Timberwolves basketball.
Still a few people hanging around even after the game's over, but really the biggest talker was whether or not people felt like a new ownership group might look to move the Timberwolves out of Minneapolis, out of Minnesota. And people are worried about it, but people were also divided. Some just kind of maybe waiting to see what happens if this new deal does eventually go through. Randy?